For years, Eddy World held an undisputed position as California's largest gas station. Located in the heart of the Mojave Desert along Interstate 15, it serves millions of travelers every year driving between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. It was a landmark stop on one of the busiest travel corridors in the United States, and for decades, no serious competitor challenged its dominance. That changed in March 2026 when Tesla submitted construction permits for a massive new development directly next to Eddy World. The plans revealed something far bigger than a typical charging station. Tesla's proposal includes more than 400 V4 Supercharger stalls with a peak capacity of 50 megawatts, integrated solar power, a restaurant, retail, and commercial spaces, and a phased expansion strategy spread across 6 development stages. Once completed, it would be roughly 2.5 times larger than the world's current largest EV charging station. The question is no longer whether Tesla is building a charging station. The real question is whether Tesla is creating an entirely new business model that could eventually replace the traditional gas station. To understand why this project is so significant, it's important to look at the economics behind gas stations. Most people assume gas stations make their money by selling fuel, but the reality is very different. Fuel margins in the United States are extremely small, often around 1 cent per liter. Gas stations survive because customers make additional purchases while they're there. After filling up, drivers typically spend 3 to 4 minutes inside the store, buying drinks, snacks, gum, or a quick meal. Those impulse purchases generate much of the profit. Tesla's Yermo project is built around a completely different customer experience. Charging an EV typically takes between 15 and 30 minutes. That extra time changes everything. Instead of quickly grabbing a bottle of water and leaving, customers can sit down for a meal, enjoy a coffee, check emails, relax, or browse nearby shops. What was once a mandatory stop becomes a destination people may actually enjoy visiting. That's why Tesla's development includes a restaurant, commercial retail space for outside businesses, extensive solar-covered charging areas, and dedicated infrastructure for Tesla semi-trucks. Long-haul electric trucks require a completely different charging setup than passenger vehicles, and Tesla is designing the site to accommodate both. This isn't simply a charging station with extra amenities attached. It's a commercial center designed around the charging experience itself. The difference comes down to a simple business principle. Eddy World attracts customers because drivers eventually need fuel. Tesla's Megahub aims to attract customers because it offers something valuable to do while charging. One business model is built around necessity, the other is built around experience. Historically, experience-driven businesses tend to generate higher profit margins and stronger customer loyalty than businesses based solely on necessity. So why is Tesla planning more than 400 charging stalls? And why now? The answer lies in several powerful trends converging at the same time. Currently, Tesla operates only 22 V2 and V3 Supercharger stalls in Yermo, with charging speeds capped at 150 kilowatts. That capacity has struggled to keep up with demand for years. During major travel periods such as Thanksgiving, Christmas, and summer holidays, EV owners frequently encounter long lines. Wait times have sometimes exceeded an hour, longer than the actual drive from Yermo to Las Vegas under normal traffic conditions. Even when considering the broader area, the problem remains. Within roughly 20 kilometers, there are more than 200 high-powered DC fast chargers from multiple providers, including over 120 Tesla stalls in Barstow and nearly 100 chargers in Baker. Yet the corridor still experiences capacity shortages during peak travel periods. That's the supply side of the equation. The demand side is growing even faster. Between 2024 and early 2026, nearly every major automaker in North America adopted Tesla's Supercharger network. Companies such as Ford, General Motors, Rivian, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Volvo all gained access to the ecosystem. In November 2025, Stellantis announced that vehicles like the Jeep Wagoneer S and Dodge Charger Daytona would begin receiving Supercharger access in early 2026, with future models such as the Jeep Recon scheduled to follow. As more automakers join the same charging network, demand doesn't increase gradually, it accelerates. Every new EV added to the road contributes to the overall load on the network, especially along major travel routes like Interstate 15. Yermo sits directly at the center of this growing demand. Tesla's proposed Megahub appears to be more than just a solution to current charging congestion. It represents a strategic response to the future of transportation, one where millions of electric vehicles, from passenger cars to commercial trucks, rely on fast, reliable charging infrastructure. If Tesla succeeds, the Yermo project may not simply compete with Eddy World. It could redefine what roadside travel centers look like in the electric vehicle era. Tesla's plan for more than 400 charging stalls isn't about making headlines. It's about meeting future demand. According to Tesla's projections, that's the minimum capacity needed to prevent this busy highway corridor from becoming a major bottleneck over the next decade as electric vehicle adoption continues to rise. But there's an even bigger strategic move happening here. Eddy World isn't just another roadside stop. For decades, it has been a symbol of California road trip culture, a landmark that travelers know and remember. It's not simply a destination. It's a reference point on one of America's most traveled highway routes. By choosing to build directly beside it, Tesla isn't just addressing a charging problem. It's placing itself at the center of what the future of long-distance travel stops could look like. The project itself is being developed in 6 phases, and the rollout strategy reveals a lot about Tesla's approach to investment and risk. Rather than building all 400 stalls at once, Tesla plans to start with just 72 V4 Supercharger stalls in Phase 1, expected to begin construction in late 2026. That's enough to ease current congestion while allowing the company to collect valuable real-world usage data before committing to larger expansions. Instead of making assumptions about future demand, Tesla wants data to guide every step. Phases 2 through 5 will gradually expand the site along Calico Boulevard, adding restaurants, retail stores, and solar-covered charging areas. What's particularly interesting is that Tesla won't operate most of those businesses itself. The company plans to lease commercial space to outside restaurant and retail brands. As a result, Tesla won't just earn revenue from electricity sales, it will also benefit from the customer traffic generated by its charging network. In many ways, that's closer to the business model of a commercial real estate developer than a traditional energy company. The final phase will complete the full vision, more than 400 charging stalls with a peak power capacity exceeding 50 megawatts. To put that into perspective, 50 megawatts is enough electricity to power an entire mid-sized residential neighborhood during peak demand hours. Tesla also plans to install solar canopies and Megapack battery storage systems throughout the site. The idea is simple. While visitors are eating, shopping, or relaxing, the solar panels above them could be generating electricity that's being stored and used to charge vehicles nearby. That self-sustaining energy ecosystem is a key part of Tesla's long-term strategy. For comparison, the current largest supercharger site in the world, Project Oasis in Lost Hills, California, has 164 charging stalls. Once completed, the Yermo facility would be roughly 2.5 times larger, and Tesla doesn't appear to view this as the final destination. Instead, Yermo looks more like a prototype for future highway charging hubs that could eventually be replicated across major travel corridors in the United States and Europe. So why not build everything immediately? Tesla has learned from years of expanding its gigafactories that investing heavily in infrastructure before demand exists can be an expensive mistake. The company prefers to expand only after operational data confirms that additional capacity is needed. Each phase must prove itself before the next one begins. Ironically, the biggest challenge isn't building the chargers, it's supplying enough power. Delivering 50 megawatts of electricity requires much more than a standard utility connection. It involves lengthy negotiations with power providers, transmission studies, grid impact assessments, and often significant upgrades to local electrical infrastructure. In a remote desert location like Yermo, that process becomes even more complex and costly. To address this challenge, Tesla is approaching the problem from two directions. The solar canopy produces electricity during the day, while Megapack batteries store energy and help reduce reliance on the grid during expensive peak demand periods. This approach isn't just environmentally beneficial, it's also financially smart. Electricity purchased during peak pricing hours can cost several times more than power generated from solar energy and stored on site. Location is another major factor behind the project's viability. Yermo offers three advantages that most urban areas simply can't match: abundant land, relatively low property costs, and a constant stream of millions of travelers passing through each year. That's why a 400-stall charging hub works here. Trying to build something similar in downtown Los Angeles or New York would be far more difficult due to land scarcity, high real estate prices, and complex zoning regulations. Tesla has created a model that works exceptionally well under ideal conditions. The bigger challenge will be adapting that model for dense urban environments where space and infrastructure are far more limited. Meanwhile, competition is beginning to emerge from unexpected places. During the first 2 months of 2026 alone, Walmart expanded its DC fast charging network by nearly 50%, growing from 20 locations to 31. The company now operates more than 224 charging stalls, with dozens of additional sites planned. Walmart may not be an EV manufacturer or an energy company, but it owns something incredibly valuable: thousands of large parking lots in locations people already visit regularly. At the same time, companies like Shell and BP are adding EV charging stations to their existing fuel networks. They already have prime roadside locations, established customer traffic, and strong brand recognition. What they don't have is Tesla's vertically integrated ecosystem, a system that combines vehicle manufacturing, charging hardware, battery storage, software, and solar energy under one roof. As the EV charging industry evolves, that integration could prove to be one of Tesla's biggest competitive advantages. What Tesla's competitors lack isn't just money or infrastructure. They don't have a charging network with tens of thousands of stalls creating powerful network effects, and they don't have data from millions of charging sessions every quarter to fine-tune operations and customer experience. That's a competitive advantage that can't simply be purchased. And that's why the real story here isn't the size of Tesla's charging station. It's what this project says about the future of the fuel retail industry and where businesses like Eddy World fit into that future. Industry forecasts suggest major changes are coming. According to leading market analysts, as EV adoption continues to rise, a significant portion of gas stations across the United States could close over the next decade. In regions with high EV penetration, fuel profits are expected to decline sharply, putting pressure on traditional roadside businesses that rely heavily on gasoline sales. What's even more interesting is that the number of gas stations in America has already been shrinking for decades. This trend began long before electric vehicles became mainstream. Thin fuel margins made it difficult for many smaller stations to remain profitable. In other words, EVs didn't create the problem. They're simply accelerating an existing trend. At the same time, the EV charging industry is expanding at an extraordinary pace. What was once a niche market is rapidly becoming a major part of transportation infrastructure. The competition is no longer theoretical. It's happening right now. Yermo is one of the first places where that shift becomes visible. On one side stands a traditional roadside destination built around fuel. On the other stands a new model built around charging, energy, retail, and customer experience. So how will companies like Shell, BP, or even Eddy World respond? They have several options. They can integrate EV charging into existing locations, use their current traffic advantages to stay relevant during the transition, focus on heavy-duty trucking markets where electrification may take longer, or simply continue with their current business model and hope the market changes more slowly than expected. History suggests many established industries choose that last option. Companies rarely fail because they don't see change coming. More often, they fail because their existing business is still profitable enough to make change uncomfortable. Consider Kodak. The company understood digital photography decades before it became mainstream, yet remained heavily dependent on film. Or Blockbuster, which famously passed on the opportunity to acquire Netflix when streaming was still in its infancy. The challenge wasn't a lack of information, it was the difficulty of investing in a future that could disrupt the business they had already built. Eddy World may now be facing a similar dilemma. And by building directly next door, Tesla is placing that question front and center every single day. One thing Tesla appears to have gotten exactly right is location. Yermo wasn't chosen by accident. It sits at the intersection of several powerful factors: growing charging demand, strategic positioning along one of America's busiest travel corridors, and a unique opportunity to establish long-term brand presence. When a company builds at the right place at the right time and at a scale large enough to capture attention, it's doing more than solving a current problem. It's helping define the direction of an entire industry. That said, it's important to keep expectations realistic. The headline number is 400 charging stalls, but Phase 1 includes only 72. The remaining expansion depends on future demand, and Tesla hasn't committed to a fixed timeline for all 6 phases. That's a sensible financial strategy, but it also means the full 400-stall vision remains a long-term goal rather than an immediate certainty. The true scale of the project may not be fully visible for many years. Another important question is whether this model can be replicated elsewhere. Yermo benefits from vast amounts of available land, relatively low development costs, and a steady flow of long-distance travelers. Those conditions are difficult to find in many parts of the world. Building a similar facility in densely populated cities across Southeast Asia or throughout much of Europe presents very different challenges. Land is more expensive, regulations are often more complex, and available space is limited. Tesla has created a compelling model, but its long-term success will depend on how effectively it can adapt that model to different environments. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is this: major energy transitions rarely unfold the way people expect. Gas stations are unlikely to disappear overnight. Industries don't usually collapse all at once. Instead, change happens gradually, market by market, region by region, year after year. Only in hindsight does the transition seem obvious. Yermo does not mark the end of Eddy World, but it does provide a clear glimpse into how the future of roadside travel may evolve. Customer experience will play a major role in that future. Tesla consistently ranks among the highest-rated charging networks for user satisfaction, thanks largely to its ability to control every stage of the process, from hardware design and manufacturing to installation, software, maintenance, and operation. If completed as planned, Yermo will bring all of those elements together in one location at a scale Tesla has never attempted before. Whether the project ultimately becomes a blueprint for the future or simply an ambitious experiment remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The competition between traditional fuel stations and next-generation charging hubs is no longer a future possibility. It's already underway, and Yermo may become one of the most important test cases in that transformation.